Our hope is that when you listen to our conversation today, you'll get some high value information and be inspired and maybe even motivated to make some healthy changes in your life. We even give you some action items at the end of the podcast so you can actually make changes if you're ready. So stick around to the end.
That's where the good stuff is.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Coach Brandon. If you are with us live on Facebook, either on one of our profiles or if you're just watching us through one of our groups, that's great. We appreciate it. Drop us a thumbs up or tell us hi, ask some questions. That's kind of the whole point, right?
Mhm.
So we want to have you here and
Yes,
be
indeed.
part of the conversation. So
That's right.
if you are not in one of those places,
silly.
please do join us. Yeah, come and join us. Be part of that conversation. And let's get it started.
Perfect. Well, you know, we like to keep it positive around here.
We try.
We try anyway. We try to. But there are really just some things that I hate about the fitness industry.
Try to be positive, but hate.
You know,
Okay.
trying, but, one of them being that mindset or the constant repeating of that slogan, what's your excuse, right?
Yeah.
It brings the idea in general that if somebody isn't aggressively going after their goals, whatever it may be, that they're just being lazy and, not doing enough and making excuses. But even worse, it brews guilt inside of the person if you tell them, well, what's your excuse? You're making
Right.
excuses, right?
Yeah.
And for somebody who already found it hard to go to the gym and thought that they were doing the things they needed to do, now they have all these negative feelings that I'm not doing enough. And that just really doesn't help when you're trying to get your shit together.
No, I'm not.
No,
I'm
doesn't
not
help.
No, that's not helpful. Guilt and shame are not helpful. And that, I find that slogan, that brand of thinking
Mm-hmm.
really tends to come from people who are in a good place with that stuff, right? And yeah, I think perhaps it's well intended sometimes, but I don't. From the industry, it's really not, right? It's just like it's guilt-based marketing is what it is, right?
Totally.
And we don't need that. Right?
No.
That's not. I don't know. That's not for.
It doesn't help.
That's not for real people.
No.
This implication that
Right.
If you're not under 10% body fat or whatever, then you're just lazy and making excuses.
Yeah.
I'm not into
Not
that.
down with that.
Yeah, everyone's in their own place, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the thing that I don't know. It just gets. I mean, it's just generalizations, right? And it's not helpful. And everybody does have we can talk about valid excuses.
Yes,
right?
there are valid excuses.
Tons of them, right? Kids, if you have kids,
Mm-hmm.
you already, right? We have, and I shouldn't say excuses. These aren't excuses.
They're not excuses.
These are reasons. These are reasons that it's hard to prioritize ourselves. It's
Mhm.
hard to make time during the day to work on our health and fitness or prioritize our health and fitness. So yeah,
Mhm.
kids
Kids are a good one.
parents, if you're a caretaker,
Whew.
huge, right?
Yeah.
All kinds of things can come up. Pets, house issues, work issues, time, money, right?
Money is a big one.
Relationship.
How about geography?
Geography.
Ooh.
Yeah, right? We live in a place where,
Mhm.
there's a gym on every block, right?
Fair.
But
Maybe
not
even two.
everybody has that. Yeah, yeah, literally.
But you brought up a
Around
good
here.
one, relationship issues. If there's something
Yeah.
going on in a relationship, that makes it
Yeah.
very hard to struggle through quite a bit.
Yeah, we could talk about really less tangible stuff,
Yeah.
right? I don't know, guilt and fear.
Fear.
Right? So
Fear's a big one.
Yeah, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of injury.
Everything.
Fear of everything.
Just
Maybe
afraid
you're
of
just
everything.
fearful. Yeah, so there's a lot to that can get in between
Yeah.
us. Without even getting into depression and
Oh.
trauma.
God, depression and
Right.
trauma, those are hard to get past.
Yeah, they're things that we contend with
Yeah.
a lot of the time. And so this whole what's your excuse? Well,
Awful.
yeah, those are my excuses.
I don't have any
right? Those are-
excuses, but I have all these reasons.
I've got these reasons. I've
Yeah.
got these, some things that are in my way that make it tough. And I just want to make a couple of points. The first thing I want to like say is just like, dude, this is health and wellness is not a black and white issue.
No.
It's not a like you're either doing it or you're not,
Right.
and stop making excuses. That's not how this is, right?
No. And, it's okay if you haven't started your journey yet, or maybe you're just starting. Like you said, it's not black and white, right? Like most of the fitness industry makes it seem like it is, where you just come and do the things, it's just black and white. But there's a lot of gray area in between there.
Yeah.
In your situation is going to be very different than mine. And it's not always easy to add something new to your life, right? That's a big thing, is I'm adding something new to my life. So
Loud noises.
It's clearly not easy,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Totally. No, it's and this whole like your success is based on your results,
Right.
Or your success is based on, your success is based on your results, and your results are based on whatever, portrait of health you've been given, which in our country, for the most part, is like, how skinny are you?
Right.
And that's BS. And that's another topic, right?
Right. But like when you bring up weight loss, that's a health journey lots of people go on. There's lots of things that are excuses or impediments that you have no control over, like your hormones.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have no control over that if you're going through some hormonal change. If you're on a medication that impedes your weight loss, you could be doing all the things and not losing weight. And if somebody's screaming at you, what's your excuse? That doesn't really help. You shouldn't be pushing yourself to the breaking point of absolutely everything because it worked for that person over there.
Right. Well, and then even just looking at behavior, right? Like, what's your excuse for not getting to the gym today? Like, maybe my gym is, 30 miles away, or I don't have a gym. A gym's not an option. Maybe I'm not able to afford a gym. Maybe I have 4 kids. Maybe I'm recently divorced and learning to be a single parent. Maybe I have, medical conditions that prevent me from, being 110% right now. Right. Yep. So it's hard to be consistent sometimes. And I think that being consistent is probably like the number one goal, like the thing to try to pursue. But that doesn't look the same for everyone. And if you're in a place where you're not able to be really consistent, or consistent doesn't mean you nail it every day. Right. It doesn't mean that every week is a super huge win. And I get up at 5 a.m. every morning and knock out an hour at the gym. That is not what consistency looks like. Right. We can draw back a little bit. We can look from a broader view. And, 6 months from now, a year from now is that week that I just wasn't able to fit things in, or my life was a dumpster fire. That won't be as big a deal. Right. But I don't need to also spend that week, 1, dealing with whatever I'm dealing with, but 2, being super guilty and feeling ashamed that I didn't, hit the gym super hard while I was caring for my grandmother who had a heart attack or something. And
not to mention, it's really scary when you start a journey of any kind that's focused on your health, right? Yeah. It's very intimidating. And a lot of people see that as a big barrier, that, there's not really a set way to do anything. So, I have to do this every single day because that person did it every single day. That's not necessarily true. Yeah. And if somebody's yelling at you that you're making excuses and look at this person over there, that comparison doesn't help. And then if you don't just take small baby steps to work towards what you're talking about, consistency, and try to front load everything all at once, that can just make it more intimidating, more scary, and more cumbersome.
Totally.
That's not helping.
No, it's not helping. We do not need to judge others at all by comparing them to, our routine or our results or our work, abilities, whatever that may be. Yeah. We just don't need to judge. Yeah. We don't need to do that. What's your excuse? That's judgment right there.
Point 1 is that it's not black and white. There's lots of gray area in there. What was the second point you wanted to make? Because there was another one.
Yeah, there were two, right?
There were two.
And I can spend an hour and a half talking about point one. Point two, your value is not based on like how you look or whether you can run upstairs or what the next person
or how hard you can
is
crush
doing.
that workout.
Yeah. Or how often you can get to the gym. Your value is not based on any of this stuff.
No, it's not.
Right? Maybe some of the things keeping you from or between you and being consistent or having what you want from your health and wellness right now, maybe those things are things that give you value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being a parent makes it hard for me to be consistent a lot of the time, especially when I had young kids. Being, owning a business makes it difficult for me to be consistent. Being involved in other things. There are a lot of things. But those are things that do give me value or add to my perceived value, my relationships. Sometimes I got to show up for somebody else. And yes, it's a balance, right? Like we're always having to balance those things. And that's a lot of what our coaching is about.
Yeah.
Hey, how do I walk this line? Like this is something that is part of my life or livelihood. Maybe it's an obligation, right? When is it okay to say no to that? When do I need to say no to me and say yes to that? Sometimes, that's not a black and white thing. Like tell your kids that you're never picking them up before, 6 p.m. Some of us are not willing to do that, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and that balance you talked about, speaking from personal experience, if you're a people pleaser, I'm also one of those, that it's kind of a struggle to find that balance if you constantly have somebody yelling at you, what's your excuse? And you have people telling you you're making excuses and, putting that negative mindset in there when you're just trying to find the balance. I know that's where I was when I started. Especially
if you have someone, an individual telling you that, let's reevaluate that. I'm not like a marriage and family counselor or whatever, and I know in the industry like that's very much like the coaching like mentality. Like get your shit together, stop making excuses. Like dude, if that's I won't lie, like sometimes people are not, we encounter people who just are not able to ever say no, right? And sometimes we need to like nurture this other, like go ahead, it's okay, stand up, your kids can wait 15 minutes,
right?
They don't have to do it every day, whatever it is, right? Helping them walk that line. But if you got somebody who's just, or your coach is just like, get it together, say no, draw that hard line, like if they're really like, if that's the message you're getting, please, I encourage you to reevaluate that.
And again, it takes time when you're implementing something, right? So you're not going to be perfect right away, that you're going to have to work on finding that balance, that, all those things do not help with a positive mindset and pushing forward and finding consistency if you're constantly flooding yourself with guilt and negative feelings and, oh, maybe I'm not doing this enough, maybe I'm not doing good enough. That's not going to push you to excel at what you're trying to accomplish.
Right. And so wherever that message is coming from, so that's the other thing, like, and I'm just going to jump into action items right now since we kind of started going down that.
All right, let's do it.
That path. If you're getting that message from somewhere, like I said, like if it's in a relationship, I understand, like that's a big, like, how do I deal with that? Right. And I'm not going to give you advice there necessarily, like, but we receive that message from all over the place, right? Like social media is huge, right? Like, I mean, I'm in the industry, so my social media, like, my feed is just flooded
with that stuff,
shit like that all the time. What's your excuse? Work harder. Nobody cares. Work harder. That whole thing. Like, wrong. No, people care.
People care.
We care. We care.
We care.
We have a gym full of people who care. We're very fortunate that way. And cool, if that's like your place and that's your jam and you're like, nobody gives a shit and push harder. Cool. That's fine. That's yours. Totally. Just please understand that it's not for everyone. and some people are really like have legitimate reasons for being afraid and they're not comfortable in, the health and wellness setting, especially not the gym. But yeah, wherever that message is coming from in your life, like evaluate that.
Yeah.
And if it's like, yeah, social media, like I'm just like, I just don't eat it, right? Like it comes at me all day, every day. And I'm like, nope, that's BS. As a matter of fact, that's where this podcast came from, right? Or this topic came from.
Totally did.
Because I get tired of seeing it. I'm like, that's just so freaking toxic. Like that is not good for people. Understand that when you're getting that thrown at you, that you don't have to hear that. You don't have to listen to that. You don't have to eat that. And that, you know, you can have a more nurturing and peaceful journey here.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to be ashamed of. Because once we let go of that, like once we just allow that to be where it is, you know, and that to not be part of our journey, that takes the pressure off.
Totally.
I think that's really huge. I mean, we can see it, right? When we have people come into the gym and we're like, no, like start out 1 day a week. That'll be, that's an improvement,
just come once
right?
a week.
Just come once a week. Do half of the class.
Yep.
Take breaks where you need them.
Totally.
Right?
People
if you need help, the person next to you probably wants to help, right? We want to help. And you can see that weight come off of, okay, not physical weight, pounds,
the
but that emotional
weight,
burden, right? The emotional burden
just
of having been
shoulders.
encumbered by that for so long, like watching that come off of people is like one of the greatest things that I get to do in my life. And so,
agreed.
Like, you can have that.
Yeah.
Right. You don't
100%.
You know, you don't have to eat the messages that are coming from the industry.
No, you don't.
There's that. All right. What else do we want to talk about? Do you have any I
mean, I think I've said it about 50,000 times today, but I'm going to say it again. Take baby steps, right? It's okay to take baby steps. If you're starting something new, who cares if there's someone yelling at you to push harder? You do what you can do, take small baby steps. It's a lot to implement something new and to make changes in your life that if you try to bite off more than you can chew, you can easily feel overwhelmed and those negative messages feel heavier.
Yeah.
So just take it one step at a time, just one tiny little thing. Like we talk about when people come to us and we say, okay, well, do you drink soda? Oh yeah, I have, 2 sodas every day. Yeah. Start by picking a day where you don't have soda. Yeah. Just one.
Or
you can have soda the rest of the week. Or one a day.
Any improvement
just a
is
tiny
a
bit.
win. Like,
totally.
Yeah, I think I want to kind of piggyback on that and say like embrace health and wellness as a process, as a lifestyle, not a Band-Aid you have to rip off.
Right.
Not a one and done, like I got to fix this and then, move on or go back or whatever. Like, really, I think, do you think that that's really a matter of like acceptance? I think of that, like accepting that, where we are, but also like walking that line, right? Of accepting where we are and yet knowing that we, if we want to have a fulfilling life or whatever, if we want to have these certain things that we want to be able to, walk up the stairs again, right? Or whatever, like that we have to walk that line of like accepting where we are. It's okay. Emotionally accepting where we are, but also accepting that we have, changes we need to make and some challenges we need to embrace.
Yeah. And if you're working towards consistency, making big, huge changes all the time are not going to help you get to consistency.
Right.
Doing something small, like this week, I'm going to tackle this one little thing.
Yeah.
Then when I have that down in a couple of weeks, I'm going to tackle this next thing. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's how my journey started, was just focus on one thing at a time. And when you've tackled that, don't give yourself a timeline like, oh, maybe it takes me a couple of weeks. It's okay. You're working towards consistency, not perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Progress, not perfection, for sure.
Exactly.
I'm going to return back to the point of comparisons. Like, let's not compare even to perhaps your previous self. So this is a big one for me.
That's a good one.
I was an athlete growing up. I was able to do a lot of like, pretty high performance stuff. And I've had some big breaks, and, times where I've been away from, or out of my routine. And when I come back, right, I've I've aged. My body's not where it was.
What?
Right. And
Our body changes as we age?
right.
What?
So, no, yeah. And like accepting that and being like, okay with like, okay, that's where I was. Where am I now? And where can I make an improvement from where I am now, rather than how can I be what, and do what I maybe am used to doing or what I used to do. Right. That's a big one for a lot of people. Oh, I used to be able to do this, and this feels like just totally overwhelming or defeating. Right. That's that's huge.
And to be honest, when I was on my journey, when I stopped comparing myself to other people, when I stopped comparing myself to my previous self and just focused on doing what I needed to do, I actually got to a point where I liked the way I look and feel more than I liked that perfect version of myself. Right. And I like and appreciate myself more than that really anorexically skinny bikini model that was plastered all over my house for 3 years, motivating me. I felt way better about myself than I thought I would. And I liked myself so much more than I thought I would when I stopped focusing on comparing myself to not just myself, but to other people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes those things that we call motivation really are comparisons.
They are comparisons.
And, sometimes we're not aspiring to healthy things, right?
No.
Like that's kind of where you were when I met you, right? Like, yeah, you really had this like 6-pack,
rock hard abs.
Right. Yeah. You had a big goal that way.
Goal.
And yeah, like I felt like it like inspired you to a point, and then it was almost like the closer we got to it, we were going like, this isn't necessarily a healthy thing we need to do unhealthy things to get there, that goal.
And that's not worth it.
Yeah. And we have a lot to be grateful for, right? And be happy about. And so, making those comparison is dangerous.
Yeah.
So,
but getting back to it, there's no such thing as an excuse. Everybody's reasons are valid for where you are. Your reasons are valid for working how hard you can work, and just focus on getting towards that consistency. Don't worry about, I didn't totally crush it and do everything that somebody told me I was supposed to do, whether it's yourself or someone else.
Zoom out a little bit, right?
Out.
Like, let's kind of redefine, maybe we need to redefine what consistent means, right? Instead of having this whole like consistent means like kill it every day. It's just no.
That's not what consistency means.
That's great if that's part of your life and that's where you are. That is absolutely fantastic. Good for you. I'm not taking that away from anyone, but if you haven't been in a gym, or you haven't gone for a hike, or you haven't been active, you haven't done any of the things that you kind of like know you want to do or need to be able to do, then any progress toward that is something to celebrate.
Absolutely.
Sure. And if we can make it enjoyable and not torture, then that's a big deal.
You're also going to stick with it a lot longer and be more consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Okay. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, like I just want to thank our community. I want to thank you for being here and kind of listening to a different point of view, and also for sharing that, and for doing what our community is so awesome for doing, is just lifting each other up all the time, and making it easier on the other end of that to be vulnerable, to raise your hand when things are hard, when you need help, when something's been tough, or you have a question and you feel like you should know the answer. Like that's okay. Like I want to hear all those questions.
Ask us. We love questions.
Absolutely. All right. We are out of here.
Bye.
We love you guys.